Beyond the happiness and unhappiness, there is a peace. The hierarchy beyond good and bad. Is there a difference between happiness and inner peace? Yes. Happiness depends on conditions being perceived as positive, inner peace does not. Whenever anything negative happens to you, there is a deep lesson concealed within, although you may not see it at the time. Even a brief illness or an accident can show you what is real and unreal in your life, what ultimately matters and what doesn't. Seen from a higher perspective, conditions are always positive. To be more precise, they are neither positive nor negative. They are as they are, and when you live in a complete acceptance of what is, which is the only sane way to live, there is no good or bad in your life anymore. There is only higher good, which includes the bad. Seen from the perspective of the mind, however, there is good, bad, like or dislike, love or hate. Hence, in the book of Genesis, it is just said that Adam and Eve were no longer allowed to dwell in paradise when they ate of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. If you forgive every moment, allow it to be as it is, then there will be no accumulation of resentment that needs to be forgiven at some later time. Remember that we are not talking about the happiness here. For example, when a loved one has just died, or you feel your own death is approaching, you cannot be happy. It is impossible, but you can be at peace. There may be sadness or tears, but provided that you have a relinquished resistance underneath the sadness, you will feel a deep serenity, a stillness, and a sacred presence. This is emanation of being. This is inner peace, the good that has no opposite. A different quality of consciousness will flow into your doing. One of those exceedingly rare humans who possess the worldly power as well as wisdom. As soon as they do, one of the greatest miracles happens. The awakening of being consciousness through what appears as evil, the transmutation of suffering into inner peace. This, however, does not become true for you except through forgiveness. Until that happens, evil has not been redeemed and therefore remains evil. Most of the so-called bad things that happen in people's life are due to unconsciousness. They are self-created, or rather ego-created. I sometimes refer to those things as drama. When you are fully conscious, drama does not come into your life anymore. Let me remind you briefly how the ego operates and how it creates drama. The basic ego patterns are designed to combat its own deep-seated fear and the sense of lack. Their resistance, control, power, greed, defense, attack. Some of the ego's strategies are extremely clever, yet they never truly solve any of its problems, and simply because of the ego itself is not the problem. But even if you live totally alone, you still create your own drama. When you feel sorry for yourself, that's a trauma. When you feel guilty or anxious, that's a trauma. When you let the past and future obscure the present, you're creating a time, psychological time, the stuff out of which drama is made. Whenever you are not honoring the present moment by allowing it to be, you're creating drama. When you live in complete acceptance of what is, that is the end of all drama in your life. Nobody can even have an argument with you, no matter how hard he or she tries. You cannot have an argument with a fully conscious person. An argument implies identification with your mind and a mental position, as well as resistance and a reaction to the other person's position. The result is that the polar opposites become mutually energized. These are the mechanics of unconsciousness. You can still make your point clear and firmly, but there will be no reactive force behind it, no defense or attack, so it won't turn into drama. When you're fully conscious, you cease to be in a conflict. No one who isn't at one with himself can even conceive of a conflict, stand on a course in miracles. This refers not only to the conflict with other people, but more fundamentally to conflict within you, which is easiest when there is no longer any clash between the demands and expectations of your mind and what is. All suffering is ego created and is due to resistance. Also, as long as you are in this dimension, you are still subject to its cyclical nature and the law of impermanence of all things. But you no longer perceive this as bad, it just is. Through allowing the isness of the all things, a deeper dimension underneath the play of opposites reveals itself to you as its abiding presence. An unchanging deep stillness and an uncaused and joy beyond the good and the bad. This is the joy of being the peace of God. If you cling and resist at this point, it means you are refusing to go within the flow of life and you will suffer. It is not true that the up cycle is good and the down cycle bad, except in the mind's judgment. Growth is usually considered positive, but nothing can grow forever. This solution is needed for new growth to happen. One cannot exist without the other. The down cycle is absolutely essential for spiritual realization. You must have felt deeply on some level or experiencing some deep loss or pain to be drawn to the spiritual dimension, or perhaps in your very success became empty and meaningless and else turned out to be failure. Failure lies and concealed in every success, and the success in every failure in this world, which is to say on the level of form. Everybody fails sooner or later, of course, and every achievement eventually comes to naught. All forms are impermanent. You can still be you can still be active and enjoy manifesting and creating new forms and circumstances, but you won't be identified with them. You do not need them to give you a sense of self. They are not your life, only your life situation. Your physical energy is also subject to cycles. You can not always be at a peak. There will be times of low as well as in a high energy. There will be periods when you're highly active and creative, but there may also be times when everything seems stagnant, when it seems that you're not getting anywhere, not achieving anything. A cycle can last for anything from a few hours and a few years. There are large cycles and small cycles within these large ones. Many illnesses are created through fighting against a cycle of low energy, which is vital for regeneration. The compulsion to do and to retain us to drive your sense of self-worth and identity from external factors such as achievement is an inevitable illusion as long as you are identified with the mind. This makes it hard or impossible for you to accept low cycles and allow them to be. Thus, an intelligence of an organism may take over as a stop-protective measure and create an illness in order to force you to stop so that the necessary regeneration can take place. All conditions are highly unstable and in constant flux, or as you put it, Impermanence is a characteristic of every condition, every situation you will ever encounter in your life. All will change, disappear, or no longer satisfy you. The same condition that wasn't good yesterday or last year hasn't suddenly or gradually turned into bad. The same condition that made you happy that makes you unhappy. The prosperity of today becomes an empty consumerism of tomorrow. They cannot distinguish between their life and their life situation. What it meant, of course, was this. I've learned to offer no resistance to what is. I have learned to allow the present moment to be end, to accept the impermanent nature of all things and conditions. Thus have I found a peace. To offer no resistance in life is to be in a state of grace, ease, and lightness. This state is then no longer dependent upon things and being in a certain way, good or bad. Yeah. All those things, of course, will still pass away, cycles will come and go. But with dependence in your gone, there is no fear of loss anymore. Life flows in with ease. The happiness that is derived from some secondary source is never very deep. It is only a pale reflection of the joy of being, the vibrant peace and that you find within your enter state of non-resistance. You will still feel a deep inner core of peace. You may not be happy, but you will be at peace. Okay. 배고파요. I feel great.